Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and Nintendo Switch OLED is coming out. Woohoo! Boy, are we all ready for it. Now, for the last several months, everyone's been hyping up the Nintendo Switch Pro. This mythic console that was basically going to be a stronger version of the Switch was hyped up all over the internet. Twitter, Reddit, YouTube. I was never escaping it, okay? Everyone was hyping this bastard up. And the only reason I didn't make a video on it was because Nintendo didn't even really confirm it, okay? All we were sitting on were leak territories. Heck, some of the leaks were straight up out of 4chan. And if you're gonna go to 4chan for leaks, understand that 5% of whatever 4chan leaks is usually true, and the other 95% is so batshit insane that it's on the territory of my uncle works for Nintendo and he's a flat earther, okay? So there's nothing really that you can believe anywhere on the internet. Unless Nintendo confirms it, don't hype yourself up. But what do you think the internet does when they hear one rumor? They hype themselves up. You hype yourself up. When you hype yourself up, it's always going to let you down. Nintendo revealed the new Nintendo Switch OLED version, which is basically the exact same Nintendo Switch you're getting right now. No processing updates, not even an upgrade to the RAM, not even a CPU upgrade so you can iron out some of those, Switch, frame rate issues in some of the recent games that you get a new OLED screen, so for $50 extra, it's the same exact system, same Joy-Con, so you still get a little bit of that drift issue, which, at least from my understanding, is at least a little bit ironed out. But you get a nice OLED screen. It's 7 inches. It's a little bit bigger, all right? It's an OLED screen. Better hype yourself up, bucko. Now, let's go over some of these, point by point, okay? Now, I want to start this video off. I want to just preface this by saying if you're a Nintendo fanboy, all right, and what I'm about to say about your piece of plastic hurts you, you should go fucking outside, okay? There's a whole fucking world for you to explore, all right? You should touch some goddamn grass, okay? Because if arguing over plastic pisses you off this much, holy shit, touch grass! Anyways, let's get over some of the positives, all right? The OLED screen. Now, it's a 7-incher. It's a 720p OLED screen. And listen, that might shock you, but usually on a screen this small, 720p still looks pretty fine. It's still sharp and crisp. And since they didn't upgrade the Switch's processing power, do you honestly want to have a 1080p screen? Do you honestly think the Switch's system is going... It already chugs at 720p, 30 frames on a handheld, okay? Without any processing upgrade, a 720p screen is absolutely fine. Now, to be honest with you, an OLED screen, while there isn't any processing changes, there's definitely going to be a visual change, even just with this screen. If you ever remember a system called the PS Vita, I've made a few videos on it, one of the best handheld systems of all time, right? Games like Gravity Rush, for instance, are absolutely jaw-dropping on an OLED Vita. Later on, Sony, who was making the PS Vita, the PlayStation Vita, made an LED version of it, which looked worse, maybe lasted like 30 minutes longer on battery, but that charm of the OLED Vita was gone. The OLED screen makes a difference. Do not take that lightly. The blacks are blacker. The colors are more vibrant. The contrast is on a different scale. Even if the system doesn't get a processing update, playing those Switch games on an OLED device are going to it's going to change things up visually, okay? Games like Super Mario Odyssey are going to look better. Games like Breath of the Wild and Breath of the Wild 2 are gonna look better. Games like Link's Awakening are gonna look better. You ever play a game called Astral Chain? You bet your asshole that's gonna look better, bucko. So OLED is going to make a difference, right? Now, the Switch Pro, I would have preferred, instead of the OLED, to at least have a processing update, okay? Lately, the recent games that have been coming out for Switch are coming through some frame rate problems, okay? The Switch is a good system, but now that we're on a new generation with the PS5 and the Series X and S, the Switch needed an actual performance update, okay? Because right now, you're looking at a system with the power capacity of like a PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4, okay? Somewhere in between there. So, at this moment, the games that are coming out are like 720p, and they're barely hitting 30 frames. They're kind of hovering in that 20 to 30 territory, which a lot of people have said if they had FreeSync and G-Sync, dude, that shit couldn't even clear 20 to 30 frame rate drops, okay? It wouldn't be a functional system, all right? The point is, the system is being tapped right now, okay? If they had a processing update, like maybe some new NVIDIA tech, maybe things like DLSS, the system can last longer, okay? A processing update is required required. Now, people are comparing the Switch with like, hey, look, guys, that $1,000 smartphone you have, that's stronger. Yeah, okay, it's because it's a $1,000 smartphone, okay? It's probably going to have a better processor. It's definitely going to have a better processor than a Switch, which is priced at $300, $350, okay? So there's a world of difference there. But regardless, Nintendo's connection with Nvidia, they could have provided a better processor. They could have went out. Right now, whatever they're using for the Switch is outdated, okay? We need an update. And I feel like people should stop defending Nintendo from this. Listen, expect better. Nintendo should update their system. It makes the games play better, okay?
You know, man, a case could be made that Nintendo hardware literally limits the experience for the gamer. This is Breath of the Wild running on the Wii U emulator with 60 frame enhancements, and it's rendering at 4K as well. I can have this rendered in ultra wide, whatever you want, but this is a general idea of what to expect from actual processor updates. Nintendo could have provided a stronger Switch. Hell, they could have just re-released this game as well for $60 again by giving it a 1080p 60 frame update, and you would get a relative level of gameplay enhancement. 60 frames benefits a lot for an action game like this. And hell, you can plug this up to an OLED TV and get that exact same crisp color experience. Hell, you could even plug this up to Windows 11 and use the Auto HDR, I think, to push this out with an HDR pipeline. So there's a lot you can do to get this experience. But if Nintendo updated their hardware, you could experience this without using any modification, without using emulation. Honestly, the emulated experience for Nintendo games is far better than the normal legit experience will ever really be.
You do not want a game that's a stuttering mess. A game like Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is a great game, but on a Switch, if you have more than 10 enemies on a screen, it's going to drop. It's not a good experience. A processor update was absolutely needed. So anyways, aside from all of that, they have 64 gigs of storage, which is... Oh, that means nothing. Now, it's an upgrade from the 32 gigs you usually get, but imagine this, okay? There's more and more games that are coming out on the Switch. Games like Apex Legends, which run like dog shit, but they take up some space. Games like Fortnite. Hell, big Nintendo games take up space. 64 gigs is not enough space whatsoever, okay? Maybe something like 128 gigs would have been expected. If you're charging me an extra $50, listen, the OLED screen is nice, but you need way more space than 64 gigs. You fill it up real quick. And before anybody says,
but Muda, you can use a SD card.
Listen, I want the onboard shit to be sizable too, alongside the SD card. I'm not asking for much. Most systems these days come with a 1 terabyte SSD. This is fucking flash memory, alright? Stop defending them. 64 gigs is not enough for gamers these days. Now they have a new, wider kickstand, which looks nice. I mean, you can apparently make it stand in every capacity. Dude, I don't give enough of a shit to care, okay? It is what it is. A redesigned dock that features a built-in Ethernet jack. So if you haven't noticed, they took away a USB 3.0 port, which made people bitch for a little bit. I don't understand it. Everyone really used that port to connect an Ethernet adapter to their Switch so they could play Smash at absolute perfect latencies. The fact that now they've replaced that with an actual Ethernet jack is great. It means you can play Smash using an actual Ethernet cord built right into the dock. It means Splatoon 2 players can play without any latency through Wi-Fi being forced. So I'm not against that. That's kind of cool. It has enhanced audio, which is fine. I mean, I hadn't had any complaints with the Switch's audio before, but hey, it's still an upgrade, so give it where credit is due. And they got a black and white color scheme, which actually looks really sexy. So I'm going to give it all, I'm going to say I'm for it, okay? Now, they have been using the exact same Joy-Cons, and from what I understand, Nintendo has not really fucking bothered to fix the Joy-Con drift. All my Joy-Cons have drift. The only ones that don't is a pair that I bought like 6 months ago. And so far, they've been going pretty strong. So maybe Nintendo's fixing them up. Maybe they're alleviating the issue. But I wish they at least properly addressed it. But hey, it's Nintendo. They're always going to have the things that they'd never fucking budge on. And that pretty much rounds out the Nintendo Switch OLED model. Is it a massive upgrade? Fuck no. All right, it's a $50 extra price that apparently you have to pay for an OLED version of a Switch, which granted will look nice. The screen is going to look much more vibrant. And granted that the screen is slightly bigger, bigger. It's always a net positive. And hey, at least you get double the storage from 32 gigs to 64. So hey, you are getting some tangible upgrades. Is it what anybody expected? No. But am I going to blame Nintendo for that actually? No. Because the Nintendo Switch Pro leaks were about as legitimate as a fucking anti-vax tutorial on Facebook. So the fact that Nintendo basically gave a light refresh, it's still underwhelming, but it's what I expected from Nintendo at this point, okay? Expect nothing and still be underwhelmed, right? So ladies and gentlemen, am I going to get the Nintendo Switch OLED version? Fuck no. At the end of the day, the Nintendo Switch, by the way, has become such an easy system to kind of emulate that you're better off emulating games on your PC if you have the hardware strong enough and play games at 4K with 60 frames per second. Have you ever played a game called Astral Chain on the Switch? One of the best games ever. You know what the biggest problem with Astral Chain on the Switch is? The fact that it struggles to hit 30 frames per second. Now, if you have a PC with powerful enough specs, you can get a game like Astral Chain to run at 4K with 60 frames per second. And you know how enjoyable that is over playing it on a basic Switch? Way more enjoyable. I know, people are going to say,
But Muda, it's not portable.
listen, I'll sit my fat ass in front of my computer, in front of an ultra-wide display, just to play that game the way that it's supposed to be. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it where it is. I think the Nintendo Switch Nintendo Switch OLED model is definitely interesting, but I'm gonna suggest that all of you probably wait like 2-3 years, okay? Don't pick up a Switch yet, because they have to, and I honestly firmly believe Nintendo has to update the hardware. At this point, we're reaching theoretical limits, like every game that's coming out is hitting a frame rate wall, is hitting a resolution wall, and at this point, Nintendo's gonna have to upgrade their hardware just to cater to the third parties that are jumping on the Switch, okay? They just have to. So I would honestly suggest you wait maybe 2 years, 3 years for Nintendo to actually update the hardware. Because if you're going to buy a Switch right now with just an OLED screen, it honestly isn't worth it, okay? Just hold off. Nintendo's going to have to update their hardware and pick it up right there and then. Because that's the Switch you want, okay? It's not the fact that I'm underwhelmed they didn't release this magical Switch Pro. It's that I know they're going to have to release it at some point, and I'm urging all of you to just wait for that point, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, that's all I really had to say on the Switch OLED model. Definitely interesting. Is it as underwhelming as I expected? Yes, absolutely. Is the OLED screen great? Yeah. Is it worth the extra $50 on a piece of hardware that's pretty fucking outdated at this point? No. Ladies and gentlemen, that being said, I've been playing some Switch games on a portable device that I'm going to show you in another video. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.